Well, howdy folks, welcome back to the shop. So today we're going to be working on these torpedo heaters. Here it's in Pennsylvania right now. The temperatures start getting a little bit cold and stuff, and I want to make sure that these are good to go. But really, this one here's my mom's. We use it sometimes to thaw out the pipes. We have problems with the pipes freezing out where my mom lives. And this one here I actually found in the trash. Somebody asked me to come over and pick some junk up, and I went out and I saw this, and I was kind of curious about it right off the bat because it don't look terrible shape. Whoever it was looks like they did a lot of woodworking and they used it in their wood shop or something, because it was completely covered in sawdust. But from everything else I saw, it don't really look too bad. There was some issues with it, and I'll walk you through that here in a second. Now this one here, it's still questionable whether it's even savable yet, but why don't you take a look through these pictures here and you can see what kind of mess was inside this guy. And I didn't fix it yet because I want to walk you through what to look for, and the same with this in here, to show you what the symptoms are. This one here is a ProTemp. It's 45,000 BTU. It's a nice little torpedo heater. So if I can fix it for 20, 30 bucks, maybe even 40 bucks, maybe even more than that, it's well worth it, because these are nice little guys to have around. This is 100,000 BTU. Actually, I think it's a 97,000 BTU is what it's actually rated at in the books. It's a Century. Century is kind of like an off-brand. Actually, I should say that differently. Even ProTemp, Century, Toro, I think there was a John Deere, there's Ready Heater. All of them are almost basically the same. They're all the same type of heaters, same components a lot of times. Different nozzles sometimes, different little subtle differences like that. But in general, they're almost all the same. So this one is an old one. I don't know the age of it. I remember us having it as kids, and that was 30, 40 years ago. So with that said, guys, take a look through these pictures and you will kind of see what this was about. And then after you're done there, we are going to start walking through and see what we can find on this one, because I think this one's going to be easier to fix than this one here. But anyway, take a look through these. I showed you pictures of what was underneath here, so the mice have gotten in here pretty bad, and I don't know if this thing is savable yet. I'm kind of hoping it is, but what I'm going to do, because I don't really think you guys want to sit here and watch me clean everything, so what I'm going to do is take everything apart, clean it, and then I'll bring you back when I start doing the reassembly of everything and putting the cord on. We're going to take the nozzle out, the plug out, make sure it's gapped right, and make sure the nozzle's good. If not, replace it. I think I have an extra one here. And then we're also going to check the air pump out and the cover and stuff back here. So, like I said, hang tight for a minute, and I'll bring you back when this is all cleaned. All right, guys, so you've seen how bad that Century torpedo heater is. I mean, that thing is, like I said, I hope we can save it. If not, my mom said it's not that big of a deal, so I'm not crazy worried about it. But what I wanted to do before we go any farther here is I wanted to show basically the first thing that I do. So I open the fuel up. The fuel actually in this is really clean. I cannot see any water droplets at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and try to use the fuel what's in here. And when I found this, it came with almost full tank of fuel in it. So I don't know what that's about, but the way it was run before with all the stuff on it, I'm assuming it was used, so I'm going to assume that the fuel in this is okay. But a lot of times when you get these, you have a fuel problem. That's one thing you usually have. But we're going to go ahead and fire it up and see what happens. And what's nice about this ProTemp model is it comes with a pressure gauge built into it. And one of the things you can see right off the bat, it is missing the filter. So that's not a good sign. So I'm going to flip the switch on here and let's see what it does. Well, There you go. There is no pressure whatsoever in here. So that tells me that there's an air pump problem in this right off the bat. So on this model here, there's 3 screws here, and the heads almost on all these models, I'm talking the old, the new, these heads on these screws are 5/16 or a Phillips head. I always use the 5/16 because the Phillips head you can strip out, and I already removed these. So one of the other things I like to do is I like to spin this slow, and you noticed it spins, then it stops, and you have to put not a lot of pressure on that, but that tells me something might be wrong in this pump in here. So what we're going to do next is, one, we have to take this pressure gauge off so we can get to these 2 screws, but I'm also going to take a peek in here. So this is where you adjust your pressure. So and right there's a problem already. There is supposed to be a spring in here, and then there's a ball bearing in here. I don't know if this screwdriver is magnetized to pull it out, but there's a ball bearing in there. So I got me another screwdriver. Hopefully it's magnetized, and there you go. So there's the ball bearing. It's in there. So there is no spring there, so that's obviously an issue. Normally I would just stop right here and, you know, put a new spring and ball bearing in this and turn it back on and see what we got. This here's what concerns me. See how it spins a little bit and it stops and then it's a little hard? That tells me something's wrong in here. So we're going to go ahead and take that the rest of the way apart and see if there's anything wrong in here. And I'm going to use the gun here just to take this off. Okay, so this is interesting as well, is if you look on this filter, look how much carbon is on there. So it makes me curious if the rotor and stuff is going bad in this, and it's killing it. The vanes are getting wore to the point it's normally these peel right off here, but it's sticking pretty good for some reason. All right, so it's not terribly bad. One of the things you want to look for too is make sure there's no cracks in this. I repaired one time and it was cracked, and it would never build pressure, but I didn't see it right away. And what I ended up doing is feeling around, and I could feel the air coming out of the crack, and then I inspected and I saw the crack. So that's another thing you want to look for. All right, so on this side here you got a hose. That's what this little screen or filter here is. A lot of times you can just grab a hold of it and pull it out. That'll be replaced as well. And then this is where your air hose goes and hooks to the your nozzle up here. So these screws here will take this cover off. Okay. Okay, that surface don't look terrible, but it almost feels almost like gummy. So I'm not sure what's up with that. So here's your rotor and your vanes, and if you look right there's part of the problem is these vanes should be loose in here. They should be falling and touching the outside of the case there, and they're not. So something's wrong there, but these are relatively easy to get out. You can usually just grab a hold of them and pull them out, and all they do is have this thing here that sits right on there. And if you look in here, it feels almost like it got oil or something in it. So hopefully this back bearing isn't starting to leak, but once I took that out, look how easy this spins. So these vanes, they should slide freely in this, and they are wore. They're not wore terribly. See, that one's a little bit looser, but they should be falling out of this. So we're going to go ahead and set this one aside here, and then we're going to just go ahead and clean this surface real quick, and then we'll start the reassembly here. So I'm just going to use regular brake clean and wipe it out. And these surfaces they're polished purposely so that whenever these vanes come out, it rubs against this surface here. And these vanes are pretty much just carbon. So all right, so you want to make sure, look in here and look at that surface, make sure there's no nicks, dings, anything like that. And I can tell you right now, that surface it's really nice in there. So I'm not sure why that's like that. And then this surface here, make sure you get this cleaned up too. Okay, so it's not in bad shape at all, but and this is all cleaned up. So I'm pretty pleased with that. All right, so I went ahead and got a new rotor and vanes. I got a new gasket kit and a new filter. And then also I got a new spring and ball bearing to put in this. So we have everything to put this thing back together. So let's go ahead and install the rotor and vanes here, and I'll show you what I mean. All right, so there's the new rotor, and you do not put any type of lubricant on any of this stuff in here. So one of the things you also want to make sure is there's a spec on this dimension here, and what I mean by that is the distance from the rotor to the outer housing here. So that distance is on this model, it's 3 to 4 thousandths. So a regular sheet of paper, I already measured this is actually 3 thousandths. So what we're going to do is put it in here and see if its clearance is fine. And it's not. Look, it won't turn. So that needs adjusted. So what you do there is you loosen up these screws. All right, and usually what I do is I run this piece of paper in there, just like that, and just push just lightly on it, and then tighten these back up. And then pull it out, and look, now it spins nice and free. So then you just add your vanes in, and a lot of times both ends are rounded a little bit, so you just lay them in there just like that. And you'll know if you put them in wrong because, see, it'll stick out. So they only go in one way, really. And just like that. So see how they work? You can see how they fall down like that. That is the way they're supposed to be. So with these being loose in there, or tight in there, there's something wrong with this one. So we're just gonna, like I said, throw it away and keep on going here. So now we can go ahead and put this guy back on. There's no reason why we can't. And also, whenever you're doing this, it's kind of like building a car engine. If anything is tight, something is wrong. And there is no alignment on this one. The screws usually kind of help line it up. All right. I don't like to torque them with the gun. I always torque them by hand. It's just a habit I'm into. All right, so we want to put our air hose back on. So in the new gasket here, we got that little foam piece, and all of these parts were bought at equipmentsupply.com. They actually have a lot of parts for these. It's very common stuff to replace, and they have some really good tech manuals. Okay, and then this guy, he just kind of lays in there just like that. Make sure he stays in place, and then we can put him on. And I do the same thing. I'll run these down, then I'll hand tighten them. So one thing I wanted to mention is while I was cleaning this unit, I did go ahead and pull the igniter out and the nozzle out and check it. I didn't do anything to it other than I sprayed a little bit of brake cleaner through them, make sure they were clean. Other than that, that was it. So there was nothing on that. So our new filter can go in there, just like that. And I should have put this in before I put the cover on, but you can put it on after, just like that. All right, and now we'll go ahead and put our ball bearing in, our new one. So there's our new ball bearing. We'll just lay him in there. And this spring, and here's the spring that was missing, there's a recess in here and it fits right in there. And then you just put that guy in. And I'm just going to take it to where it is flush to the top there. I don't want to go any more than that. So we'll go ahead and put our pressure gauge back on. All right, so with that said, let's get this thing turned on and see what happens. All right, you should never run them without the cover on. They will fire a lot of times, but what I'm gonna do, and I'm not gonna screw it down because I wanna make sure it's gonna fire, but just like that, we'll go ahead and turn it on. And this has the pressure specs right on the side of it, which is very convenient. So this pressure is supposed to be 3 pounds, which it's crazy high. But it did not ignite. Let's see what else could be possibly wrong. The pressure looks really good. I'm actually surprised it's that high already. But I'm going to let this sit for a minute because there's a lot of fumes built up in it. And I'll bring it back and let's fire it up again and let's check the nozzle. All right, guys. So the thing didn't fire up and I was kind of confused why it didn't because I actually had some of this fixed before and it did run and fire, so I was kind of confused by that. But so there's another issue that come around here and I already know what it is. And one of the things on this model, especially if you turn on the switch, and you guys probably won't be able to hear it, maybe I'll get closer, but you'll hear a relay click on this board. Well, that relay clicking is turning the igniter on. Well, I'm not seeing any spark across the electrodes there. So let me turn on. Right there was that click. And there's nothing up here. So I'm suspecting either the electrodes or the igniter or something went bad, because I am getting voltage. I already did check on that. I am getting voltage to the igniter. So I already pulled this guy out. That was before whenever I cleaned it. The gap is good on it. So I doubt it's the electrodes here at all, or the spark plug. Sometimes they call it a spark plug. To me, this is more the electrode style. This one here has the spark plug style on it, if you ask me. So to confirm, so what I did is on this board, these two red wires with this white plug on it, that is your igniter. So what I did was I took and put 120 volts across this and just turned it on, and I'm not getting anything over here. So I know that this igniter is bad. So on this model here, which I already have the cover off, let me turn it sideways here. The igniter is right there. So since everything's I went ahead and unplugged it, everything's unhooked, so we can take and unhook these, and we'll just go ahead and remove this. Now on this model here, I'm not crazy fan of this, but it is just double-side sticky tape to the tank here. And obviously you can't put screws down through the tank, so that's just the way this model was. It won't hurt anything, it's just not one of my favorites. But you fish out these the plugs there, and right there it is. And this is a, looks like WMI 924. I actually have the ProTemp part number available if you guys want it. I'll leave it in the description below. So I already know that this is bad. I went ahead and ordered one. Unfortunately, this is going to be the most expensive part that I put in this. It's just the way it is. But anyway, so I got this ordered, but what I wanted to show you, just so you can, and make sure all your wires and stuff are all kept up. So what I did is I put a rag here just to keep it from shorting out against anything, the board there. Because the clips were broke on this side, so someone had it screwed to the front panel, which I won't hurt anything. Actually, I prefer this method better because it's more solid. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to fire it without having the igniter. Because if it stays running without this igniter in here, that tells me that's all that's wrong with this unit. So we're going to go ahead and turn it on. We already got our fuel pressure adjusted. But what you can do is take a propane torch, and there's holes on the side here. And look, it fired right up. So now we can close this, and you got to be careful because of the fan, and it's running. So that tells me that nothing else is wrong with this unit. So if I get that igniter in, it's going to be a good running functional unit. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. And so the other part that I ordered for this was this back cover here. You don't have to have this on there, but I figured if someone else around the house here is going to use it other than me sometime for something, I went ahead and got it. So all that is a nice little cover you can put on there. So with that said, guys, what we're going to do with this one here is we're going to set this one aside. In fact, I may ignite it and warm up the shed here so I can continue to work on this other one here. But that's my plan. We're going to go over to this guy here and see what we can find out on it. So hang tight for a sec.